What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to your stimulus package update and daily news report for Sunday, April 3rd. So we actually have a lot of very important things that we need to discuss. Some major news is now coming out. We have some updates on a potential housing market crash, or it could potentially just be a correction. Have some news on gas subsidies for people in the more of the southern part of the United States near the Mexico border, and I want to address what is going on in Ukraine because there's a lot of very important things that are going on. Again, we got some major news, but here's what we are seeing. There's some major moves happening because at first lawmakers were struggling to really come together on anything. It didn't matter what it was. But what appears to be happening right now is that lawmakers have decided, let's work together. Let's figure out an agreement on any additional COVID funding before we jump to the next bill. That's at least the expectation. Now, even though there were initial discussions of passing a $15.6 billion bill for new COVID funding, the negotiations have turned because we have seen Republicans wanted to reappropriate some of the funding, or really all the funding, and Democrats said no, absolutely not. So what they are discussing as of this point is reappropriating $10 billion to pay for new COVID treatments and vaccines. Again, this is extremely important as we're seeing the BA.2 COVID variant really take hold. Now, at this time, Republican Senator Mitt Romney has stated that they have an agreement in principle, but in principle only. But they are looking for a score from the Congressional Budget Office before they move to a procedural vote. So the expectation is that vote should happen sometime this week. Now, even though there's a lot of talks about providing relief for Americans for things like rising gas prices and food prices, what we are seeing is that economists are predicting that if we see an increase in COVID cases, that would actually hurt the American people's wallets more than if we just go and tackle the crisis with gas prices and food costs. So, do we address gas and food first, or do we address COVID? Well, according to economists, we have to address COVID first. Now, it's because of this, lawmakers want to pass a bill that would help fund another surge in COVID cases before, it has to happen before they jump over to reducing the price of gas or other utilities. Now, here's what you need to understand. The expectation is that if something is going to happen with gas prices, then it needs to get started now. This is one of the reasons why President Biden has plans of releasing 180 million barrels of oil into our economy. Now, this will supply a start, This will simply start to, or pretty much get the plans rolling to lower prices. But according to lawmakers, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And 180 million barrels of oil is a good start, but it's only the beginning. Now, again, the Biden administration is saying that there's more that's going to be done. And maybe there is. But at this point, if lawmakers can't come together, then there's not a lot of hope that more could be done for the American people and to provide relief from the pain at the pump. So we'll see what happens there. But as of right now, it's really up in the air. Could the Biden administration do something? Yeah. Will they? That we don't know. But I promise I'll keep you updated as soon as we know a little bit more. Now, here's another thing that lawmakers are working towards. What they're trying to do right now is determine where President Biden's $813.3 billion defense budget stands. Where are we at with that? Because right now, according to Republicans, they like the idea of more investments into the Pentagon, especially when we are seeing a growing threat from China and we're still backing Ukraine. But Democrats say that they aren't set on the idea of spending this much money on defense when we just spent close to $800 billion for fiscal year 2022. But according to centrists, they say they are in the middle as they understand that the midterm election could hang in the balance, as voters assess which way to go. Do we back our military? Do we back defense spending? Or do we push some of that money over to something else? Again, we don't know. And this is where centrists are thinking like, do I support this $813.3 billion idea, or do I push for something else? Again, it's going to come down to the midterm elections, and I absolutely hate this about every couple of years, is that we have to deal with this same stuff every single time because, well, somebody is coming up for re-election. Now, it's a struggle because should we be changing our ideas? Should we be changing the way we move forward just because somebody is up for re-election? I don't know. Probably not. But that's what we are. That's the world that we currently live in. So we'll see what happens there. Now, let's talk about gas subsidies. And a lot of people didn't know this, but the people that live near the Mexican border, okay, they have been able to save money by purchasing gas down in Mexico. Because people that live near the border, many of them were traveling to Mexico in order to get cheaper gas, fill up their tanks, right? Get some gas and then come right back. Because Mexico has been subsidizing gas in an attempt to make gasoline a little bit cheaper. But Mexico, just as of yesterday, has decided to suspend the subsidy in all areas of the U.S.-Mexico border, as they have seen a major fuel shortage. What we know is that the suspension will last from April 2nd through April 8th. Now, here's the thing that you need to keep in mind. Once this suspension is lifted, and the reason why it was suspended was because there was a fuel shortage, not because Mexico didn't want to provide U.S. citizens or people coming from the United States with cheaper gas, but they wanted to make sure that there was enough for people in Mexico. Well, that's the issue. Is right now there's a shortage on the Mexican border because people were going down from the United States to get cheaper gas, because gas is cheaper. Then you throw in the subsidy, well, it's a little bit cheaper, even more. So it's great news there. But again, right now that means cheaper gas is well, it might not happen. So you have to get gas somewhere else. Now let's talk about a housing market crash, because here's what many people are predicting. Many are predicting that we are going to see the housing market take a hit, but it might not necessarily be a crash. It could be, but it might not. What they say is because rates are going up, people are not able to afford the amount of house that they could have just 1 year ago. Some are either going to stay in the home that they're currently living in, or they're just going to try to afford what they can, okay? Or they might buy too much. Now, here's the other thing, and this is the big one. Many experts are now predicting that the housing market crash could be due to the fact that home builders are actually building a record number of houses. Now, we are currently seeing around 800,000 new single-family homes under construction right now. That's a pretty good number, seeing that the average amount is right around 550,000 homes being built at one time. But you take in the increased amount of homes being built with the rising interest rates, okay? Now, here's what many people are expecting, because we're already seeing it. Big home builders could back out of their contracts to build a home as prices are still elevated, but what people can afford is dropping very quickly. They also say, if a builder doesn't believe that they have enough room in the project, they can cancel the contract. Here's the tough thing about that, okay? And again, you're probably thinking, well, you can't just cancel a contract. Yeah, you can. In many contracts, and again, I've seen a handful of contracts, but I'm no expert in this. But when you have a contract, a builder has a contract, they have the ability to increase the contract price. Okay, and if the buyer can't accept that, or the bank can't approve the new price, okay, which has happened quite a bit recently, because materials are going up, or it's very difficult to find the products. What's happening is banks, they're not going to give you 5 years to build your house. They're not going to fund it for 5 years as you're building. Okay? They have a time frame. You need to stick within that time frame, or you get hit with fees. Well, guess what? many many new home buyers, right? First time buyers that are going to build their house. Well, guess what? If the house can't be finished because it doesn't have doors, it doesn't have flooring, it doesn't have lighting, right? It doesn't have all the electrical, right? It doesn't have all the appliances, even just the fixtures, whether lighting fixtures or water fixtures. It doesn't matter, right? Plumbing. If the house can't be finished, and an inspector can't give it the stamp of approval, then guess what? You can't live in it. But you are still supposed to pay for it. Okay? Now that's kind of a roundabout way, but if the price of a home, the contract, increases and you cannot afford it, guess what happens? You can't buy it. You just can't buy it. And so that house, you may be stuck losing your deposit, right? But then that house, okay, that's going to have to go to someone else. Well, what if somebody else doesn't want that house? It sits there. It sits there. And guess what? The builder is stuck with that. Okay? Again, you could be put in a very tough situation here. And again, this is why some are saying that all this stuff is pointing to a definite housing correction, but we could see prices drop much quicker than many people are expecting. If we get a bunch of unfinished houses that are listed on the market, I'm already seeing a handful, but if we see even more, guess what? We are going to see the prices drop. And just over the past probably month, I have seen prices drop on new houses, okay, that need to be finished. Brand new construction, but they just need to be finished. Okay, I've seen the prices drop already. So, it's going to be interesting. But what I can tell you is buckle up for this ride, because things could look very scary. I don't think we're going to see a housing crash, like a 40-50% crash. I don't see that coming, but could we see something 10, 20, 25%? Just a drop? Yeah, it could happen. So just be prepared for that. Also, let's talk about some Russia and Ukraine news for a second, because according to U.S. officials, Russia is actually shifting their focus to victory by the early part of May. However, their goals have changed from actually taking over Kyiv to just taking over the eastern Donbas region. And according to multiple U.S. intelligence intercepts, they say Russia is looking at a May 9th victory day. Okay, we'll see. And again, whether they are claiming a victory at this point or not, I don't know. But again, it's a little bit over a month away, so we will see. And in order to help Russian troops actually take over the eastern Donbas region, according to reports, Russia is actually preventing Ukraine from any resupplies through the Black Sea. So we'll see what happens there, because that's going to really hurt Ukraine. But at the same time, is this going to increase this war? Are we going to get past this war much quicker? Or is Russia going to really ramp up their efforts and try to take over certain places? So we'll see what happens there. But as always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on, share all latest news and updates. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.